What's up, guys? Welcome back to another afternoon edition of the Home Theater Hangout. Today, we're joined with the crew from Dream Media and Just Video Walls. We got Skylar and Jim over from JVW. What's up, fellas?
Hey Shane, thank you, man. Thank you for having us on. We appreciate it.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Whoa, yeah, super loud, but yeah.
All right, sorry about that. I'm ready now.
All right, so what are we talking about today? Obviously, we're going to be talking about some video walls and like what's the tech behind it? What are these video walls? Are they mini micro LEDs? Is that what it is? Resolution wise, how's the HDR work? Is there Dolby Vision? Is it just HDR10? Is there HDR10 plus? How big can we go? How small can we go and still get 4K? If we go bigger, is it 8K or is it 64K? Is it 240K? Like, what is it? How's the resolution work on these things?
That's a lot of questions, man.
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
That'll only take 10 hours.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so Kellen, do you want to kind of answer some of the high level questions, or do you just want to pass it off to Jim to kind of take a deep dive?
I mean, I think getting the answers to Shane's questions first. I mean, Jim, Skylar, if you guys want to introduce yourselves, or introduce Just Video Walls. I can definitely jump in, but I definitely think for efficiency's sake, if we let Jim and Skylar, answer any and all questions in regards to the tech, and because I think we're on a crunch for time because with Skylar. So yeah, if we can just jump into it, I'll let you guys kind of introduce yourselves and we'll take it away.
Sounds good. So I'm Jim Koenig, VP of Sales here at Just Video Walls. Give you a quick company kind of bio here, but this company came together as a kind of by integrator for integrator. So from the field side, kind of grew the company. Seeing the gaps in the marketplace. From the different companies that obviously offer products, we saw some tremendous opportunity. We brought some really cool tech. We brought software to the game. And our big goal here, obviously, is to build a company that people want to buy from. Not that they have to, but they want to. And a lot of that really surrounds how we go to market, kind of our marketing strategy and things like that. And with that ado, I'll tee that back over to Skylar for his intro.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jim. I'm Skylar Meek here with Just Video Walls. I'm in the marketing department. And let me tell you, I've been in the industry for long enough to see lots of shifts and lots of trends and things like that. And micro LED is probably one of the most exciting things for me that I've seen in a really long time in this industry. And so when the opportunity to work with Jim and Ryan and everybody at the team over here came on, I was like, dude, let's go. And so we did, and we quickly learned that there was a lot of problems in the industry that needed to be solved if our dealers and our consumers were going to be served really well. And so Zach and Kellen have been privy to a lot of those things in the background as already with kind of the tools that we've built. But yeah, we decided that we needed to really arm people with the right knowledge and the right processes, and that's the why of this company, and that's the heart of this company, and so that's why we did it. And man, it's been an awesome ride so far. Been having a blast doing it for sure.
So these walls, these displays, they come in like what size? What size are these panels?
So we've got, you can really kind of break the industry down. There's a couple of standard sizes. There's what they consider a 16 by 9 aspect ratio cabinet, which is 600 millimeters by 337 for the, I guess, metric system challenge. That's about 23.62 by 23 and a quarter. And the nice thing about it is, they're almost like a Lego, right? They're a building block. Some companies offer them with like we do, where the off-axis viewing is the same horizontally and vertically. And what that allows you to do is rotate them. So if we're doing a curved wall, like a facet curved wall, allows us to hug those things in there. But that's one of your standard building components. And then if you look at some of the more commercial-based type of products, they tend to be a square. 500 millimeter by 500 millimeter is your basic building block, which is 19.69 inches square. And from there, obviously, I would say infinity is the limit. but these things truly are infinitely scalable. So you can start small. You can go with one cabinet, and then you can grow this to whatever in terms of size. Like I said, we can do curved balls. You can do shapes. You can chop these cabinets in half and do half-size cabinets. There is so much power and flexibility from the hardware perspective that it really becomes an imagination machine. This is also why we kind of call it the microverse. Is you look at, it's a canvas, right? These things are truly a canvas where you can display one things, many things, artwork. There's so many different applications. It almost becomes a, let me think about this. Can I do it? Yes, type of situation, which really makes them powerful. So while the hardware is very tactical, right? It's a box. Really, when it comes down to it, that's actually the smallest challenge you have. The real challenge is, where does your mind stop? What don't you want to do with your video wall?
Right. So what is the resolution of one of these 19 by 19 squares?
And that just depends on how big of the wall and what kind of pixel pitch you're using on the wall. But just to kind of to add on to what Jim was saying, like we typically refer to things as TVs in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just really harped on this idea that these displays are not TVs for all the reasons that Jim was just talking about. Because you don't have to have a 16 by 9 box on the wall, right? You can, and it's going to look really amazing and cool if you do that. But that is just scratching the surface of the versatility and what's capable with these. But because they're so custom, like you can create resolutions by using a pixel pitch, and then that's basically just defining how many pixels there are in a given distance. So the smaller the number is, the tighter those pixels are.
Right.
So like Zach and Kellen have been to the headquarters, and they've seen the big 20-foot display that we have there in our headquarters, and that's a 1.2 millimeter pixel pitch. And so that defines how many pixels you have per square meter. And then as you grow the size of the wall, you add more columns or more rows, then you just add more pixels into that display. So we go all the way down to like a 0.8 pixel pitch, which is super tight. And then all the way up to, I don't know, Jim, what we have, like a 3.9, right?
Yeah. We've actually 4 nines, 5 nines in outdoor. Technically, you can go all the way 10 millimeter, 16 millimeter, very large.
And guys, we made a full video on pixel pitch, like explaining all of this terminology and how it relates to resolution. And that video literally just dropped this morning. So head over to the Dream Media channel and you can watch Kellen and Skylar take a deep dive into pixel pitch and explaining how you would determine what's appropriate for your space. But what I really love about Just Video Walls is the customization. Like Skylar was saying, what caught our eye is the ability to do different aspect ratios. Like they have a 32 by 9 aspect ratio at the showroom in Fort Lauderdale. And they had it set up whenever we walked in where there were 4 different sports games going at the same time on like 65-inch TVs, all on one big panel, left and right to left side to right side to, and then right in the middle there was a 137-inch display where you could, like, say, watch a movie or put on the main game. So the ability to customize these, like right now I'm considering putting into my home right here a 24 by 9 aspect ratio, because I think a nice big 16 by 9 image with 2 additional sources would just be invaluable, because I'm using this space for my son. Most of the time there's like Bluey or Mario, Luca up on the display, but it'd be nice if Dad could have his own little displays off to the side.
So would you still need like an HDMI matrix of some sort to go into these displays to do those multiple
Yeah, man.
programs?
So what's really cool with these, and I wasn't aware about all of the complexities of video walls either until we visited the guys here at Just Video Walls. And after having some very intense, lengthy conversations. It was apparent that like these guys know what's up when it comes to video walls. So like some of our video topics that we deep dove into is the processors, like what components make up a video wall. And it's more than just the LED technology. So Skylar, maybe this would be a great opportunity for you to give a quick overview on that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Zach. There's definitely more than just what we're used to with TV. You know, with TV, we're used to hang a box on the wall, plug HDMI's in, and that's it. Kind of one piece situation. It's very much kind of a two-piece system in a lot of regards. Now, we do have all-in-ones, which are still a one-piece system, but there's two major components that you have when you're doing a custom video wall, and that is first the processor. And the processor is what's taking all of the inputs, so all your HDMI inputs, your DP inputs, SDI, whatever type of input you need, and then it's processing all that data and organizing it so that it can be sent out to each individual LED on the wall. And in fact, that's the way that these LEDs are set up is they're self-emitting, so they can turn all the way off or all the way on for red, green, and blue. And so that processor is sending that data out to the cabinets, to each individual cabinet, which is IP addressed, and then organizing it in such a way to where it appears correctly on the screen. And each of those cabinets has inside of it basically its own little processing board. And so those boards connect up together and create sort of a daisy chain where they're then taking that raw data that's coming in and processing it according to whatever other calibration settings and things like that we have on the wall. So it's really mostly a two-piece system. You've got the processors, which are taking all the inputs, organizing it, feeding it out to each cabinet. And then obviously you have the cabinets as well, which have the modules and everything on them.
Are there any scaling issues? Like if I wanted a 220-inch screen and I was watching, say, like 8K content, would I be able to get that in 8K resolution? But then if I was watching 4K material, what does that upscaling look like? Is there any artifacts or anything like that? Like how does it handle that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Skylar, I know you're about to jump in. Talk a little bit about how not all processes are created equal. Because I think as the average consumer is researching these video walls, they can become a little confused as to why one video wall is very inexpensive, whereas other options could be insane. So go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I think Jim's pretty passionate about that issue. He's got a lot of better talking points than I do. So, Jim, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So,
Okay.
From the processing perspective, right? You have walls that are they kind of integrate them in as well as the outboard side, like we were talking about. And what sets one processor apart from another processor is obviously a lot of performance, a lot of underhood type of things. There are chassis that are modular that actually have card frame based systems where they're scalable, and then you insert the type of cards that you need for that. If you needed DVI inputs versus DisplayPort versus serial digital, you have that capability. So one of the first kind of misnomers that we see in the business today is a lot of the pro/commercial video wall companies or some of these direct import products that seem to be very inexpensive. You're going to be getting a digital signage processor. So it's obviously going to be, let's call it a 286, right? Under the hood from back in the day, slapped with a bunch of HDMI 1.3 and 1.4s. And as Skylar was kind of talking about, the video walls and electronics inside of them, every single cabinet has that video receiving card, which is supposed to be matched to the processor. And not all of those cards are HDR compatible. And that's really where we start to see some of the lack of information in the industry kind of, rear its head. And it kind of becomes a, customer buyer beware situation. And this is why you want to choose a partner who obviously understands these things and designs these walls. But we're not talking, gobs of money also. to get a wall that's properly specified to give you the resolution. So, these processors work in tandem. So you definitely want to make sure you're looking at obviously the HDMI specifications. Don't take the faux K approach of an HDMI 1.4, right? You want the 2.0, 4K 60, 444, HDCP 2.2 processors, and make sure you're working with those. Now, from that perspective, kind of our standard video wall is an HDMI 2.0 4K compliant video wall with a processor that's capable of 4 layers. So that's kind of our standard go-to. So we actually put an HDR compliant card inside of every one of our cabinets that we build a video wall out of. It's also HLG HDR10, 22-bit internal processing capable, wide color gamut. Part of one of the other things too is if people turn their video walls down from a brightness perspective, right? Because they can be obviously pretty bright in the evening time. You want gamma corrections so that you get your contrast and your colors back in a low light situation. So that high end card that we put in that's HDR compliant handles all that. And then as you step up in processing, you have the capability of different bit rates and refresh rates. And our standard processor is going to give you an excellent experience out to 12-bit, 60 hertz. We have 8K ready processors that can do a full 120 hertz already. So gamers rejoice, less than a frame of latency. They're to the point now where the processors also allow you to add in latency so your audio can keep up, your audio processing. So the video side for gamers, they question whether a video wall can keep up with the game. Some of these we actually have to add latency in because they're so fast now. But you have a really good tier setup of kind of entry level, your mid tier products. You do have some upper end 4K products, and then we do have our flagship premium products that are full 8K, HDMI 2.1 ready today. So whatever the specification calls for and the price point, we have processors that are as little as $5,000. We have processors that'll take you out, $20,000 to $40,000. So it just depends on size of the wall, how much performance you're looking for under the hood. It's just like buying a high performance car and putting the supercharger on there and stepping the engine up. We can do the same thing in terms of video.
Right. So no Dolby Vision on these displays then?
Currently, no. That is a request of the processing side, but currently Dolby Vision is not available.
How is the performance out of black? I read about issues coming out of zero IRE and showing reference shadow details.
Yeah, that's a calibration question, really, for us. Like, all of that is solved when we go through the process of a full grayscale calibration on our walls. And I think that's going to be mostly where those answers are solved, because the challenge with micro LED is that on just a standard wall, like let's say right off the manufacturing line, those LEDs only can get to a certain black level or a certain amount of voltage going through them before they shut off completely. So
Right.
what you see is there's almost kind of like, even if you have 12-bit, you start to see like all this smooth gradation, and then once your luminance level gets to a certain point, and we're talking like, I don't know what it is, it's like 0.1% of total output, but it's enough to where you could see those that slight drop off, like a knee right there at the end.
Yep.
But that is all solved when we go through our full grayscale calibration on our walls, which is just an added service. It's an added cost, and it's optional. And I'll reference the wall that we have in our office again, just because Zach and Kellen have seen it. That wall was not grayscale calibrated, and for all intents and purposes, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
When you see it grayscale calibrated, though, like it is insane. It's just absolutely mind blowing what these things are capable of doing. So I don't know. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah. What happens if one of the panels goes bad, or do they age differently? Like, how does that work?
The panels from time to time, like you can have potential issues with them. Now, to kind of add on to what Jim was saying a minute ago, we specify as a default in all of our walls the best possible components that we can get. And so the video card, the power supplies, we actually had a customer come in and tour our office, and they put their ear up next to the wall and looked at us and were like, I don't hear any buzzing. That's great. And we were
Yeah.
like, buzzing? So they had apparently dealt with a competitor's wall in the past, which I think was a direct import or something like that. And it just had bad power supplies in it, or low quality power supplies. And so there was buzzing that came out of it. So as a default, we just decided that, we want to put our best possible foot forward because it's what's right for the customer, for our market. If we were trying to just meet a price point and get the cheapest possible wall out there, we wouldn't do that. But because of what we decided at the very beginning we want to do, we said, you know what, like, it's got to be the best components all the time. So that takes care of a lot of those potential issues, Shane. But there's always the possibility of, even a kid coming up and like whacking their bat against the wall, or whatever it is that could happen. And so what do you do if you have a panel that goes bad or gets damaged? Well, we ship each wall with a minimum of 5% spares. And that's important because those spares are manufactured with that wall. And we typically try to batch them out mostly in the COB type technology because of the phosphor that goes over the top. And those really need to stay together. But we up that percentage of spares to 10% quite often. And what that does for you is it's almost like a zero downtime scenario, where if you do have one of your modules that goes bad or gets damaged, you just simply pop that module out and put the replacement in. And honestly, like, that module 99% of the time is repairable. So we'll just take that one module, ship it back to Just Video Walls, and then we'll fix it and send it back to the customer, and then they can replace that module back in again. And so it's that's why these walls are so popular for like command and control type, commercial installations, because the uptime is just so high, and it's a non-critical downtime too. So if something does go bad, the whole system hasn't gone bad, right? Whereas if you had a single source or a single point of failure, then the whole system could go down because of one bad cable or one bad module or something like that. That's not the case with the video walls. And to that end, we also have redundancy as an option. So in each of our cabinets, we can route multiple data streams and multiple power feeds, so that if you have one circuit that goes down, or if one processor goes down, or one feed, then the entire system can automatically switch back over and stay up. So I rambled a little bit, but I think that
Yeah.
mostly.
No, that was great, Skylar.
Yeah,
I think another important things to notate for consumers who have kind of researched video walls and have been turned off in the past. For me, a couple important things that stood out was heat. Well, a lot of these panels are like, I mean, talk about, kind of checking it out, like how that customer is looking for a buzz. I've heard that myself, but also heat. Like, a lot of these, you get close and you're like, holy smokes, it's hot. In addition to power requirements, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these manufacturers, the power requirements are pretty excessive. So talk about those two categories.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things that I want to say, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jim because I think he's got some good talking points on that too. But number one is, like, when you were there at our headquarters, I mean, we were standing right next to that wall. We were touching it, like, it wasn't overwhelming. There was definitely heat coming off of it, though.
You could stick your hand right on the panel, though, and it's not going to, like, burn you.
Yeah,
I mean, I've touched some of these panels to where you literally can't touch it because it gets that hot. I mean, these things, we picked it up, took panels off, and we're like holding them, and very, very minimal heat.
Yeah, that can be a problem more so with the SMD type pixels, because that's an older pixel type. And our new technology, flip chip COB, really eliminates a lot of that because it's essentially turning the pixels back in on themselves. That's a layman's way of describing it. So the heat is directed back into the cabinet, but it's also a lot more efficient as a base. So there's definitely still heat though. Just like with any display, anything that's showing light is putting off energy, and the efficiency is growing every single day. But I mean, we stand next to that wall and shoot videos and do all sorts of things, and it's not a problem for me. Most of the jobs that we're doing now, especially the retrofits, like when they go with COB flip chip, we give them a BTU output so they know exactly what that is with every wall that's specified. But it hasn't been a problem where they've needed to redo any HVAC for retrofits. For new walls, sometimes if they're big, huge walls or they're high brightness walls, which we have some customers that are doing high output walls, then those will obviously generate more BTUs.
Mhm.
But from a power consumption standpoint, it's definitely more power that's consumed by these than your standard OLED TV, especially OLED, because OLED's extremely efficient. Or even most of the projectors, like it consumes more power. But the way that I look at it is, you don't, like, if you're buying the absolute best display you possibly can, you're not buying it from a power efficiency standpoint, right? Like, you don't go and buy, this is my favorite line, like, you don't go and buy a Hellcat Challenger and then complain about the gas mileage, right? Like, it's just, that's not what you do. You buy it because of the amazing engine and the sound and the horsepower. And but I'll say this, like, we calculated the numbers on that big wall in our HQ. It's about 22 cents an hour to run that wall, which is about the same as a dryer in the home. So it's way more than a standard TV, but it's not going to drain your bank account, just type of territory. So, Jim, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that or not.
No,
So, Skyler, sorry, Jim, I just wanted to add in the direction I was actually heading was more about like the fact that you can hook this up with 110 versus dropping in 25, 240,
Yeah.
Like a lot of customers are like, what is my electrician going to have to do just to get this thing up and running? And I was shocked to hear the power requirements that you guys have in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need to power these for, basically a full calibration mode, which is all pixels driven, 100% brightness. And that's typically where you're generating, right, the most electrical consumption. So let's take a 136-inch diagonal, 16 by 9, very common, what we call, a 5 by 5 array. That wall is going to run on a standard household 15 amp, 120 volt circuit all day, every day.
Yeah.
You can plug the vacuum in also and run it, and you're not going to pop the breaker. But you do need a second outlet dedicated for that when you run the full calibration mode. So from a servicing perspective and calibration, you need that extra power, but you don't need it for the day-to-day operation. So video walls tend to do get a kind of a bad rap in terms of being gluttonous and inefficient, but you really need that power to make sure you're running your pixels at full brightness for the calibrations and service modes. But day-to-day operation, it really is insignificant in terms of what it's going to take to make that operate.
What kind of brightness are we talking here? Like for full nit brightness, like for HDR?
Well, most of our standard walls, Shane, are 600 to 800 nits, and to my own eye, unless we're talking about a very bright environment, like we did a Beverly Hills install, that's on our Instagram and YouTube channel. And that was a very bright environment, a high ambient light environment, and that wall was a 600 nit wall, and frankly, like that could have had a little bit more brightness behind it, just because of the amount of ambient light going into it. But in a standard and normal room with ceiling lights and some windows, 800 and 600 nits is way more than you'll ever need.
Yeah.
In fact, Zach, we shot a video, like we turned the brightness down to 10% when you were there, because
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, let's just see what happens, and it was insane what kind of results we got just at the 10% output.
Well, I
That is-
mean, even at 10%, it's brighter than 99% of the projectors out there.
Right.
We went to 100, and you're just like, oh my God. Like, you could literally put that thing outside, no problem, right on the patio.
Yeah. So I hear specs thrown around for like, oh, you need 1,500 nits for proper HDR, or you need like 1,000 nits. Like, I don't know why that is. I would love to hear someone's argument for that, because in my eye, when I watch HDR content on 600 to 800 nits calibrated down, probably closer to like 500 is ultimately where we're at. Like, it is far more than enough brightness that we need, again, unless we're popping into a really high brightness environment and we just need more nits to overcome incoming sunlight into the room.
Then obviously you would need more power, I would assume.
You do. Yep.
Yeah.
Those higher output walls do require more power. That's correct. But
Now-
we calculate for that all on the back end with the tool that we put together, which Kellen and Zach have access to.
Now, from the sounds of like pixel pitch and resolution wise, I would assume that these would be kind of future proof. Like, let's say 8K did take off or 16K did take off. I would just think you would have to just swap in a different processor.
A lot of times, yes. We actually have sometimes in our sales process, people that come to us that say that very thing, Shane. And today it's 4K, but if they want to be able to accept 8K signal in the future, like we do need to do some planning for that. Our 8K processor is only fiber, so when we run our cables out from the processor, most of the time today they're Cat cables, like Cat 6 or better, and those go out to the walls. But when we upgrade to our 8K processor, those are fiber that come out of the processor, which is nice because we can do like one fiber in the place of 10 Cat 6 cables. So fiber also is really nice because you can't hack it, you can't get interference with it, like all those great benefits, and it goes a really long distance. So we do kind of have to plan ahead a little bit and know, like, okay, I do have a future upgrade path in mind. Like, eventually I do want to upgrade my processor to an 8K processor. Okay, that being the case, let's go ahead and run fiber today so that when we want to do that in the future, then we'll have all of the infrastructure in place for doing that.
Here's a question here. Can you black out certain cabinets to mimic a screen masking system? So for letterbox bars, will that section just totally turn off? How does that work?
I always tell people, if you can draw a text box in Microsoft Word, you can program a processor, because you literally draw boxes in the processor when you configure and point them to an input. You can overlap images, and it's all done real time. So as you're configuring the processor, you can actually put different images up and set those. Now, that's a dealer level function, not consumer, but the ability is there to basically make pseudo black bars, make different size images, different different panel sizes for sure.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And you can also, by the way, store those as a preset.
Right.
And it also stores your color curves. It stores your brightness, everything. So you can actually make daytime viewing modes versus nighttime viewing modes, like day game night, evening game night. Rec 709 color spectrum during the day, your Rec 2020 in the evening. You can go to that detail level in the processor and save all those as a preset. So one button recall, you're there.
Well, no, I also like the fact that a lot of times if you're wanting to display multiple content, HDR, standard, maybe you're watching a ball game, maybe you have something streaming that's in 4K HDR, a lot of times you're going to want to use that video wall to its fullest potential with multiple sources and multiple things all at once. So another thing that Skylar, I don't know if you touched on it yet or not, and I've been popping in and out. I had a Wi-Fi issue, so I apologize. But to kind of steady that incoming signal from a colorimetry standpoint would be the MadVR. And so digging into the aspect ratio side of things a little bit, I really think the 32 by 9 is really cool, but I think the 24 by 9 is, I would say, the Swiss Army knife when it comes to aspect ratios, because it is going to be close to that 240 for widescreen movies as CinemaScope movies. But it also, if you have the MadVR on it as well, then you can stretch and feel, 16 by 9 content to use, every square inch of real estate of that screen, et cetera. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because I see some comments over here about aspect ratios. And when you brought up can you just do blackout masking by just turning off the pixels? Well, if you went with a 24 by 9 aspect ratio screen, you have the MadVR on there for multiple sources, you may not really have to worry about that all that much.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Kellen. I think the traditional kind of display mentality, like when you're trying to choose, I come from projections, so I get it. You have to kind of like give or take. There's an opportunity cost when you're trying to figure out what aspect ratio screen you want. And it's like, well, if I do a 240, then when I do 16:9 content, I'm giving up all this real estate, or if I do 16:9, then if I have 240 content, I'm giving up all this real estate. So it's like, well, I just kind of have to pick which one I do more often and hope that I'm not giving up as much real estate. And man, we love the MadVR over here. It's just an awesome little tool that with the nonlinear stretching, that's probably the biggest thing for me, especially on the 24 by 9. We'll scale it in the processor. So I think maybe Shane, you had asked that earlier, like, is there any scaling issues? Like, no, there's no scaling issues. We're not doing anything from an AI perspective where we're taking it and we're trying to fill in data. But we do scale content and make it fit different sizes. But ultimately, like if it's 16:9 in our processor and we're scaling that up, like either stuff is going to get cut off or it is going to leave black bars. And the MadVR helps immensely fill those in and make it a very immersive and seamless experience for sure.
Now, these are obviously just displays, so there is no built-in audio like TVs would have. So you would obviously need an audio system, I'm sure.
Yeah, we leave the audio up to the professional audio guys on those.
That's what we do best here, guys. We love getting custom with it. So obviously, we're aware of all of the industry's best practices for video walls, whether it's a reflex system like from Meyer, if you're wanting to go ultra high end, or we can do speakers below the screen, and depending on your seating arrangement, that may be sufficient. If we're needing a little bit more dispersion for multiple rows of seats, we can do a phantom center by lining up speakers below and above the screen. But we have plenty of solutions, and I'm glad you asked because we made a full video on that with the guys at Just Video Walls that we put out last week. So if you guys aren't subscribed to Dream Media, head over there and check out the playlist from Just Video Walls. And we did everything from an introduction of the company to all of these complex questions and really take a deep dive. Obviously, on a live stream like this, we're not going to have the time to really deep dive into all those categories, but we made separate content for you guys.
Have you guys had a preferred audio system that would work well with your screens? Because I know like Procella has some that shoot towards the audience. Ascendo has some that angle towards the audience as well. I think Meyer Sound has ones that bounce off the screen back at the audience. Is there a preferred way?
System. Well, probably one of our favorite entry all the way up to mid and even pretty high end favorite here at Dream Media is going to be RBH. They make some really nice high output AMT tweeters, on wall options that are super slim, and we'll be featuring some of these projects that we have in the works on upcoming videos. But doing the phantom center left and right is going to be probably the best, most achievable solution for the average guy.
What's in just video walls? I know there's like other brands out there. Is everything come from like one manufacturer? Like Samsung? Does Samsung make their own? Like, do you guys make Samsung walls, or like how does that like what's that like?
Well,
Because there's like no real like brands that
let
sell
me tell
these
you,
things.
like when we were first getting started, we interviewed over 200 different manufacturers, and that was after we tried to get into video walls um, from a dealer perspective on with some of the major brands here in the U.S. So I don't know if that is answering your question or not, but there are definitely a lot of manufacturers out there. Now, what I'll say is some of the included technologies inside of micro LED are very narrow in terms of how many manufacturers there are, and some are very broad. So there's 3,000 different manufacturers of this one type of component, and then some, like I said, are very narrow because they're such a specialized, and honestly, it's a very expensive process on some of those to invest into and get into the manufacturing. So um, there's yes and no. There's a lot on the manufacturing side, and there's a little, and that's why like doing the homework and knowing what's good and what's not is so important in this process.
All right, so let's say I want a 200 inch screen. Like what's pricing? Like ballpark? What's like a good size? What's a popular size for like most residential homes that people are going for? That would be kind of now not overboard, but like something that's going to really knock out the projectors. Would you say?
So I just want to add something in here on the pricing aspect because I think this is one thing you guys do really well. A lot of the really well-known manufacturers that we have access to here at Dream Media, the options are pretty limited and they're very expensive. The guys at Just Video Walls, they don't come to you and say like, here's what you have to buy. This is our only option. It is very customizable, and we have options all the way from projector type pricing replacements all the way to the absolute best DCI compliant video walls that are going to be in that, $350 to $500,000 price point. But Skylar, give them a little insight into how affordable these things can actually be.
Yeah. We're definitely not into the realm of like entry level projectors.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard to compete with. I mean, some of those things are getting down so far in price point, but we are competing in the. I mean, we've got walls that we can get people into in the $40,000 price range, which
Oh,
is
really?
really it's quite phenomenal considering that we're also making the stamp of like, hey, this is the best quality product as well, and we're doing everything on the back end with those, Zach, like all of the added services, like all of our walls are double QC'd. They come in. We build every single wall here in Florida in our Florida HQ before it goes out to a customer. And then we pre-program processors and everything. And like when you get a Just Video Walls wall, you're not getting just random parts and buckets like what we received when we first tried to get into the market.
Hmm.
You're getting like complete kits, install kits. You're getting everything. You're getting all the high quality parts. And so the fact that we're hitting that price point, I think, speaks volumes, especially when you see that product in person. We actually had one on the back side of our Cedia booth at Cedia last year, and it was one of my favorite walls in the entire booth. It just looked amazing, and that price point really gets people into the market. It gets people into the by far superior product that is micro LED for their homes or their businesses. But like you said, I mean, like, things go up from there. Like if we want to dial in and just make a cinema ready DCI, like, Hollywood level product, then we could do that, and it's going to look absolutely incredible. But the range generally starts at around 40. I think Jim's got some more like size stuff prepared just so that we can kind of get a number for typically what we sell.
Yeah. Yeah. So Shane, you kind of mentioned like what are some common sizes. Typically the 136 16:9 is probably one of the most popular
Mhm.
size walls, the most popular selling walls. Those start in the 60s retail. So it's not something where people are thinking, "Wow, this is crazy money." That's with a COB technology, 1.2 pixel pitch, which that's a 14-foot viewing distance. So it fits in many common living room, family room applications. So it makes it for a great all around. If I was going to put that in a theater, I'd probably want to drop that down to a 0.9, do a full grayscale calibration on something like that, and that's going to drive that wall to probably 140,000 for something like that. So not unaffordable. Well, I
Right.
couldn't stroke you that check right now, but when you look at what it would cost for a high end laser projection system, right now you're starting to kind of rival those prices. The 163, your starting price point's right around $100,000 in a 1.2. So again, a lot of people think that's a $400,000 wall. That's big. That's 7 feet tall. And one of the
Yeah.
challenges that I see when we talk to people about that wall is like, what is the height of the ceiling? And these are things that come up as you start talking about this with a customer. Like, what's the height of the ceiling? The audio, right? If the ceiling's only 10 feet, you're not even leaving room for a center channel in that application. So this is where I've switched so many 163 walls over to either a 240 or a 24:9 type of wall, because it really then obviously gives them that widescreen effect, gives them the multi-picture in picture, but leaves them space for the center channel. So by doing that, a lot of people don't realize we see wider than taller, and when you explain that to them, they stop and
Mhm.
think about it. Wait a minute, yeah, I guess you're right. And because a 163, while you might be at 14 feet back for a 1.2 pixel pitch, you're not absorbing the top and the bottom of the screen without panning your eyes and your head up and down. So those little things that come into kind of viewing are things that we built in our design tool to help dealers make sure, right, that they're designing the right size wall with the right viewing distance and pixel pitch. But that's why we see a lot of the walls going into a 24:9 or a 240, just to make that viewing experience better. But like I just quoted a 24:9 for a theater, and that's $176,000. That's full grayscale, 10% spares, extended warranty. I mean, it is literally car salesman's dream. I slapped every extended thing you could on that wall. But just kind of shows you that these things can get up there. Like I said, and the starting price point for that wall is in the 60s for something
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, you could, if you dial this thing in and look at a gorgeous image for a theater application, that's a full 8K fiber everything. You
Oh
can
yeah.
game on that wall. You can have sports night with the guys, movie night with the family. I mean, it is an all-purpose machine, and it does have a price tag. But again, it's the industry's coming down. It's not three, 400, $500,000 anymore.
Would
We're
you
jumping
say
low.
would you say that screen would rival something like a Christie Eclipse?
I haven't put them side by side to see, but I would definitely stand behind the wall in terms of what its capabilities are for sure. I cannot see anyone walking away from this thing going, "That's a terrible image." Now it is, you're dealing with reflected light versus direct light, so
Yeah.
having worked with Skylar at Screen Innovations ourselves and understanding projection, I completely understand reflected light versus direct light. So there are some people are always going to prefer reflected over direct, but in this day and age, some of the benefits of direct LED definitely can rival projection.
And that's kind of where I was going with my comment earlier, is not that, the customer that wants to purchase an LS 12,000 from with eShift from Epson is going to necessarily align with this unit, but the Barcos, the Christies, if you're looking to build a higher end home cinema, then you have to consider just video walls. And there is a difference between reflected light and a video wall, but I personally have experienced both. And although projection does kind of have a cinematic feel to it, the just video walls, the vibrant image, the brightness output, and the flexibility to assign different aspect ratios and really configure different displays on that one panel is just, it's next level. It's going to like blow your friends' minds when they come over versus your average projection setup is kind of typical, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like demos with when I was in Germany. I saw they had a barcode there, and I was like blown away. They were playing DCI material, a lot of trailers, Maverick, and I was like, man, I was like, this is the best image I've ever seen. And then he rolled up the screen with the micro LED behind it. I was like, oh my, I was like, forget about it. This is like, I was like, this is apples and oranges. This is like black and white. This is like totally different. It's like so much better. And then
Yeah,
of course
Shane,
they had,
we're trying to be kind here, man.
yeah,
You know, like Jim said, like we came from projection. I love projection. Let me just say that. Like I am a fan of projection. I think that projection will exist in this industry, in the market, for a very, very long time. Because look, listen, there's some things you can do with projection that you just can't do with any other display. For example, when I want to roll it up, I can't do that with a micro LED system today, right? Or if I want to just have a portable screen that I take and put out in the backyard, it's a lot easier when I blow something up and put it out in the backyard and set a projector on a table.
I don't
But
know, Tyler. Actually, we can fold it up and put it in your floor.
that's true. We
Because
can.
I just
You're,
got us set up with C-Seed, and they make that mechanism now to where we
yeah.
can take it and put it right underneath the floor.
That's true. And by the way, Zach, we also are partnered with Future Automation. So we have that same capability as well. And we can do that too. But, you know, my larger point is that I think projection will still exist in a lot of ways, and people are going to love it because it's a big screen, a big image in space. Like that's just a cool thing. But it is really hard to compare projection against micro LED without like just seeing your jaw drop, like you were saying, Shane. Like when you see an awesome projected image, it's like, man, that's awesome. But then when you A B that against the level of saturation, like the
yeah,
best way I can describe the micro LED systems is think about an OLED TV but without the glare and any size that you want.
yeah,
And that's the best way I can describe it because the pixels again are self-lit, and that's what makes OLED so amazing is you're not filtering any of that light through anything. You don't have an LCD panel that you're trying to push it through. No, each of those pixels can turn completely off, but they're also emitting their own light and their own color. So the saturation is just absolutely mind blowing when
yeah,
you watch these things, and the viewing angles, man. Like you get over to the side of this thing, and man, you have the same exact image that you have from direct on.
yeah.
So it's just an incredible technology. I have to bounce. I have a 6 o'clock or a 5 o'clock that I have to get on to, guys. But
Yeah.
Shane, Zach, Kellen, everybody out in the world, I really appreciate y'all. Like, we thank you for your support. We're having fun doing this, man, and we're excited to build these experiences with people, dude. We really are.
Yeah,
Awesome, man.
absolutely. No, I appreciate your time today, Skylar and Jim. Thanks for coming on, guys. And keep in mind, head over to the Dream Media YouTube, guys, and check out the Just Video Walls playlist. We got several more videos even in the pipeline trying to literally educate you on every single aspect about the whole video wall industry. That's what I love about the guys here at Just Video Walls. They only do video walls, and they have done the heavy lifting for us. They've interviewed the 200 different companies, and they know the best of the best equipment, and we're proud to offer it here at Dream Media. So check those out, and if you're interested, reach out for a free consultation, and we'll assess your situation and see if this is the right product for it.
Well, all right, guys. Jim, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, I did see a question talking about the heat, and this was interesting because I had a customer in Florida with a golf simulator, and he was concerned about the heat generation in the room. And when I broke it down for him and said, a typical 136-inch wall generates about 1,500 BTUs on average. So obviously that's with, I guess watching a hockey game, a lot of white surface. And, what a lot of people don't realize when it comes to BTUs is obviously projectors put off heat as well. Depends on where it's located and how it's vented. But, the typical human body emits 300 to 400 BTU. So if you look at like a 136, it's like having, 4 people in the room from a heat perspective. I was like, think about the holidays at grandma's house. You got 20 people in there, and after about 2 hours, there's zero oxygen. The temperature is going up, right? And you're like, it's hot in here. And it's like, so the best way to think about, video walls, if you're concerned about heat, is, look at the specifications, which our proposal's output, but you look at that average BTU spec and just go, 300 to 400, BTUs per person. If you've got a theater with 10 seats, this was actually what caught a couple of people also, is like, well, how many seats are in your theater? They go 10. I go, well, that's, times 300 to 400 times 10. And they're going, wow. So we'll have more people generating more BTUs than the video wall, but also maybe we need to consider mini split, zoned AC, something to provide more ventilation. But really, when you break it down that way and put it into a people term, sometimes it's not as bad as you really think in terms of what the heat is. And the technology is morphing. One of our plans for the CEDIA show later this year, we'll be showing some of the new common cathode COB technology and MIP. And these are even cooler than what Zach has seen. So there's some really cool tech coming down the pike this year. It's going to reset price points back up again, unfortunately, 200, 300K for a theater-based wall. But of course, once that matures and stabilizes, it'll come down like most technologies do. But it's a great technology. Prices are coming down. Not every company's following suit on that type of stuff, but that's why we built a new company. We're nimble, we're lean. We designed this to be for the masses. So we're going to be at the front edge of the technology, making sure that we can bring video walls to as many people as we possibly can.
How many years, just like projectors, I can get a projector for like $300 now. How many years would you anticipate I can order this on Amazon in a big brown box and just slap it in my wall?
You could technically do it today. I mean, it's out there. That's it's probably the stuff my QC guy rejected, but I can't vouch for the quality of the product. I was just traveling up the East Coast and meeting with some integrators, and I apparently poked the tiger. But a lot of the product coming out of the Orient is packaged in wooden bulk crates with very little packaging. And the common complaint when dealers buy that is their spares are damaged just trying to get the wall to work, for the first time. And we have a completely different packaging methodology and process that we do with our OEMs. It was very difficult for us to find one that would do it our way, but we're anal retentive and meticulous, which is why we don't have the failure problems that the other companies do, and it's worth it. But the product's out there. I mean, anyone can go to Alibaba and buy something. None of us can vouch for. And Temu, you could Temu a wall today. Let's put it that way.
Wow,
there
I didn't know that.
It's caveat emptor, I guess.
Yeah. One last question here before we head out. Do you work internationally? Would one need a specialist to do the install? I would assume.
So that's a great question. We've just finished setting up kind of the United States. We're still working on our dealer network here. In the process of rolling out Canada. So Canada comes online here in the month of June. Then we're shifting over to Central and South America, and then rest of world is kind of our plan. So I'm not sure what the time frame is. We're not yet there internationally. Unless Zach, you've got 2 tickets to ride, overseas somewhere.
We've dabbled a little bit. Like we have a customer, a Dream Media Plus customer in the Bahamas that we're going to service. But, we're a pretty small company. So maybe if it's very unique and cool, we might want to. But
we'll get 2 tickets to paradise.
Yeah. If it's 2 tickets to paradise, maybe. But just
we have
mostly in the U.S. here, guys.
Yeah, our social media outreach is crazy. How many international leads we get. Our biggest concern as a company is agency approval, certifications, and working through because, having TUV for Europe. So we're at that level where we're grinding through. Just I need NOM certificates for Mexico, things like that. So from our perspective, while we'd love to say yes, I could ship you a wall. We need to make sure that, obviously from a voltage perspective and agency approvals, we're compliant in all countries. And most of the stuff already is, but, we like to take it to that next level and just make sure that we're not getting tapped on the shoulder from Germany going, do you have this stamping on your circuit board? So there's little things like that we are working through currently and in the process of to enable us to do these things across the globe. We would love to work with you on that one. I mean, worst case, hit our website, fill out the lead. We'll keep in touch with you as soon as we can get up and running rest of world. We'd love to work with you.
Oh, what's the 3D situation like?
So almost all walls are 3D capable. The processors are already
Whoa,
capable.
really?
The walls are capable, and this is without glasses. So it's kind of
Wait,
a
what?
built-in
You can do
thing.
3D without glasses?
Yeah. Yeah, video walls are kind of inherently nature ready to go for 3D.
Wow, without glasses. You can get
Without
3D
glasses.
without glasses.
Without
What does
glasses.
that even look like?
I don't know. I've seen them at trade shows. We haven't currently sold one. No one's even requested one. Curved walls, actually. We're getting one curved wall request a week right now,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But yeah, no one's asked for a 3D wall.
Huh. I would ask. Well, once you guys get a little cheaper, I'm going to ask for one. Can you? I'm imagining that you can cut this on a miter saw if you got to go around doors and stuff like that. Can you do that?
Actually,
I don't know miter saw, but can you shape them like that?
definitely not the one that I'm currently using because it doesn't cut straight. But we can do what are called half cabinets. So we can take a cabinet. We don't do it; it's done at the point of manufacturing, of course. You can also get cabinets that are mitered 45 degrees on the corners. So if you want to wrap a column and do a hard 90-degree corner, you can. For instance, like where we see curved applications, you want to do a flat wall and then transition with a curve to another flat wall. We have completely flexible modules you can kind of bend in half. They're super flexible. So the technology is there to wrap columns at 90 degrees, do curved transitions. Like I said, I was doing a brewery up in New York, and they needed just an extra 250 millimeters on the end, and we're able to do that. So there are things that are very flexible in this technology.
Awesome. All right. Well, you answered, I think, all my questions and more. Anything else you guys want to share, Zach, Kellen?
Questions on there?
I don't have anything else. I mean, guys, take a deep dive into some of our videos over on the Dream Media channel. Like I said, we went and visited their headquarters. I'm personally just blown away and can't wait to put more of these into y'all's homes all around the country. It's going to be fun.
Love that last comment. 3D is back. Heard it here first.
That's huge. 3D on an LED set that size would be insane. I would love to see that.
Might have to keep the 6 and 7-year-olds away. I don't know if it's damaging on the eyes or not yet. I'm not endorsing the product just yet. I'm just saying, by nature, video walls are capable.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us today. Any more questions, drop them down in the comments section there. And also, if you go down to the video's description, there's a little form if you want to fill out to get some inquiries about the walls. I know I just had one earlier today or during the stream. So yeah, hopefully Zach will get back to you. So, any interest in it, check out the video description, fill out the form, and then Zach and the crew will get out to you and get you a video wall in your own home.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you for everybody's support.
Likewise.
Thanks for watching. Stop by Just Video Walls. I believe they have a YouTube channel as well, and Dream Media. And thanks for watching.